says Rayshard Brooks lay dying in the Wendy's parking lot, shot twice in the back. Atlanta police officers kicked him and stood on his body, according to Fulton County District Attorney Paul Howard. So let me pop this up and see what he got to say. And if you hear like a little faint behind the background, that's just the fan, because it's pretty hot from where I'm at.
We have decided to issue warrants in this case today. One of the things that we noted from our evaluation was that Mr. Brooks, on the night of this incident, was calm, he was cordial, and really displayed a cooperative nature. But for 41 minutes and 17 seconds, he followed every instruction, he answered the questions. Mr. Brooks was never informed that he was under arrest for driving under the influence. And this is a requirement of the Atlanta Police Department when one is charged with a DUI. We've concluded at the time Mr. Brooks was shot that he did not pose an immediate threat of death or serious physical injury to the officer or officers. The City of Atlanta SOPs, in fact, prohibit officers from firing tasers at someone who is running away. So the City of Atlanta says you cannot even fire a taser at someone who's running away. So you certainly can't fire a gun, a handgun, at someone who is running away.
Now, since we got that out of the way, I will add in hold up. Actually, let me refresh. There we go. Now, I will add into what he had to say. Yeah, let me pause. Now, I will add in what he had to, what he said in the video, where he said Atlanta, officers wasn't even allowed to shoot at someone that is running away from them, or a suspect that's running away from them. Can't even shoot a taser, can't even, for damn sure, shoot a gun at him. And also, I'll add in that you shouldn't even be firing at somebody that is not even a threat to them. Like, he's literally trying to get away from the cops. So that definitely tells you that he is not an immediate threat. Like, he knows that those cops were doing something that is very illegal in the state of Atlanta, but these cops don't give a shit. And it's exactly why the police chief, Erica, what's her face? Like, she even had to run away because she knows the heat is coming at her head and she's trying to save face. So you definitely got to make these cops more and more accountable. And just doing a bunch of peaceful protests is not going to, just do anything. Like, only doing a peaceful protest and just yelling and screaming all over, social media is not going to get anywhere. So for black people, I'll say for black people in general, we do need a plan. We definitely need a plan, man, to make these cops and these, government officials more accountable. Like, we need a plan, a strong ass plan. But let me actually get into this article in a second. So that was just one of many detailed allegations Howard presented in a lengthy press conference Wednesday, while announcing that Garrett Rolfe was being charged with 11 counts, including felony murder and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Brooke was shot by Rolfe. I think it's Rolfe. Rolfe on Friday night in a fast food restaurant's parking lot after police responded to a call about Brooks being asleep in his car in a drive-through lane. Brooks failed a sobriety test and officers tried to handcuff him Videos from the scene Videos from the scene shows Brooks wrestling with two white officers and getting a taser from one of them. Brooks aimed the taser at the officers while running away. But Howard listed example after my bad, let me start over. But Howard listed example after example, which he said contributed to finding Rolfe's actions against Brooks were criminal. Rolfe knew the taser that Brooks had presented no danger because it had already been shot twice, Howard alleged. Department policy does not allow officers to fire a taser at a fleeing suspect, much less shoot them, Howard said. And Howard cited legal precedent that said officers may not use deadly force to prevent a suspect from escaping unless they have probable cause to believe that the suspect poses an immediate threat of death or of serious physical injury. He presented numerous pieces of evidence that showed Brooks was no such threat. As Brooks fled, he was shot in the back at a distance of more than 18 feet, which one of the bullets penetrated his heart, Howard said. I can never get my husband back, Rayshard Brooks' widow speaks. Officer Devin Brosnan was also at the scene and is facing 3 lesser charges. Ralph was fired after shooting, while Brosnan was placed on leave, which I definitely don't agree with that. I don't. Howard said his office had taken the unusual step of issuing an arrest warrant prior to an indictment due to a number of contributing factors. Here are some of the allegations against Rolfe according to the DA's statements Wednesday. Brooks never presented himself as a threat. Brooks' cordial and cooperative demeanor before the attempt to arrest him played a major role to the determination to present charges, Howard said. For 41 minutes and 17 seconds, Brooks never presented himself as a threat. Howard said he never displayed any aggressive behavior. His demeanor was so non-threatening that during the stop, the officers took Brooks at his word when he said a bulge in his pants was a wad of bills rather than any kind of weapon. Didn't know that. There is no medical attention applied. Contrary to department policy, the officers did not provide medical assistance to Brooks for more than 2 minutes after he was shot, Howard said. Officers must provide timely medical attention after a person is injured in a shooting, Howard said. But after Mr. Brooks was shot, for some period of 2 minutes and 12 seconds, there was no medical attention applied to Mr. Brooks. Let's see. Ralph actually kicked Brooks. Video evidence show Ralph kicking Brooks while he laid on the ground fighting for his life, Howard said. Brosnan is also seen on the video standing on Brooks' shoulders, the DA said. After the shooting, the officers did not appear to have any fear of Brooks, Howard said. Instead, the officers seemed to have other kinds of emotions, Howard said without elaborating. Ralph said, I got him immediately after the shooting.